So you recently played the High Voltage Festival, right?
Yes, yeah, a year ago, one year ago.
This year didn't?
Not this year, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I mixed it up.
1 year ago. It's easy mistake to make.
But how do you feel about, I mean, their effort to sort of bring progressive music back?
Well, the strange thing is that the magazine Classic Rock presents seems to be the fastest growing magazine in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently. So I'm told. So I think that all genres are there equally at the moment. And I think it's a case of, you know, I'm doing more shows now, so you know, I guess people think of it as progressive music, but a good melody is a good melody, no matter how it's done.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
So do you find more inspiration nowadays maybe from acts that aren't considered progressive, like?
Well, I draw inspiration from everything. I was kind of quite inspired last night here, you know, listening to all the various bands. And I can't tell you the names of all the bands, but it sounded good to me. I get a lot of inspiration from other musicians. From the way another guitarist might plug in his guitar, or the tone usually. It's usually the tone of an instrument that inspires me, more than the notes. Just the sound of it when it sounds alive. And just like tonight, you know, we're chasing that sound. You know?
What about, you know, that instrument that Java uses? Do you like that one? I mean, I think it was from
the Anklams.
Yeah, the Anklams.
Yes, I do. I like that. That becomes part of the show where they invite people from the audience to participate because it's a moment of audience participation. Everyone instantly becomes a virtuoso with that instrument. You know, all you've got to do is move it in time. It's a very good moment of the Jarvis show. No other band in the world does that that I've seen. Maybe there's, you know, guys from somewhere else, but it's something that's uniquely them, and it's a really brilliant moment, of course.
What about, you also worked on John Wheaton's latest album?
Yeah, that's right.
Have
you heard that at all?
No, but I've been getting messages from Billy Sherwood that there were many guests and so on.
It sounds very nice. It sounds very nice.
Could you like compare it to Asia or something like that? Or?
I don't think it sounds like Asia. I think that John, I think, is more interested in songs than moments in music that are, you know, created for a dramatic effect live to facilitate instrumentals and, you know, the songs serve the voice. So there are solos, but they tend to be quite short. And so I don't really think of it as a progressive album. It's an album of songs.
So did you ever consider doing maybe a bigger collaboration with him, like you two writing something together?
Well, you know, whenever I see John, there's always a natural sort of orientation. You know, I first saw John when he was with King Crimson in the very early days, when they just did Lark's Tongues and Aspic, and I remember thinking how very good he was live with the, you know, a great bass sound and a great voice. And his whole presence seemed full of self-confidence, but I always felt that I met him the same night. I went to a club and saw him and said, "Oh, I just saw you at this gig in Guildford Civic," and then I saw him at this club in London called the Speakeasy, and we became friends straight away. I said, "You sounded fantastic, the sound was great, bass sound was really great, you know, and everything. He just seemed to have lots of power and everything." And I liked Red as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, for all sorts of reasons, you know, you know, we became lifelong friends really, and I've sometimes played with him, he's sometimes played with me. And we haven't done a whole project together, we haven't done that, but it's still possible.
He was on the Genesis album, right?
He was on Genesis Revisited, yeah. That's right, yeah.
So what about your acoustic stuff? I know a lot of people love your acoustic albums, like Midsummer Night's Dream.
Right.
Are there any plans to do something like that?
Well, the last one I did was called Tribute, and it had 6 pieces of Bach on it, and some really difficult stuff. So it's probably the album where my playing's at its best on it, but it's not as original. It's an interpretation of everything that everyone has done before, especially with the Bach pieces, which is the most phenomenally difficult things to do on the guitar. Bach and Barrios. It's always there for me, the acoustic guitar, as long as my fingers work. You know, it's a more demanding, difficult medium, has a different emphasis, but it has the potential for great beauty and a different kind of fire.
But how do you say write? Do you write more on the acoustic guitar or the electric, if you write?
I usually write more on the acoustic, but...
Even for the electric pieces?
Yes, strangely enough I do. Although, you know, there comes a moment when it's a very funny thing. There's a piece on the new album called The Phoenix Flown, and but that didn't really start to happen until I had the electric in my hand. I mean, I had an idea of the melody, but when you've got the guitar with you over a repeated chord pattern, it started to write itself. It's a bit like the guitar told me what to do. It's not... I can only take the guitar so far, you know. But it's a bit like when the guitar has this... it's like giving it a voice. It's like when it starts to sing in a way that is... I can't describe it with language. It's like sometimes you find a guitar tone that you think is just beautiful. It's what I'm always searching for, and this particular sound is so wonderful. I thought, yeah, this is the sound I'm after. It's like my feet are planted on the earth, but it makes me feel 100 feet tall, like my head sticking through the roof, and it's like being in 2 places at once. You know, it's like being in the world of spirit with your feet planted on the earth. Now I know that sounds very cosmic, but that's just the way it is. It doesn't feel like you're quite grounded in the normal earthbound sort of way. It just feels like there's something that something like I'm kind of meant to do in the sense of destiny tells you. You know, there's something that happens. There's some kind of
music finds you or something like that.
Yes, I think that's it. Music finds you with certain phrases, and it's a very good way of describing it. As if, you know, it's as much about the spirit of Borodin as it is the spirit of Jimi Hendrix. It's as much about those, because I think some of the phrases I play are a substitute for what violin might do, and the idea of a string section. I sometimes think, you know, Keith Richards was talking years ago about satisfaction, and he said the fuzz box. He said it was like a replacement for a brass section, and quite right too. Yes, it has that thing. But maybe my voice with the guitar is a little bit more like the violin, I think.
Have you ever tried the violin?
No. I've not tried the violin. I think I probably did once, and I don't imagine that I would be able to play a violin properly. The trouble is that, you know, I love the sound of the violin, but it's certain violinists that have an incredible sound, like Anna Sophie Mutter has a wonderful full sound and a really intense, quite fast vibrato. Almost like a guitarist vibrato, I think, you know, lots of guitarists look for that. You know, that sound where the note, it sings but it screams at the same time, and it has, you know, something of the human voice about it. I think that's what we look for, you know.
I was just thinking, you know, you mentioned the violin, and you know, Revenge of the Giant Hogweed. I always thought that the solo on the guitar was played with a bow, violin bow.
Really?
Is there anything to it, or?
No, I think not in those days.
Because I know Jimmy Page used to do something like that.
With the bow, yes.
Yeah.
I've used a bow sometimes with a guitar, like on live rails. There's a sound that I made with the bow, which was like a train, using it to do that sort of sound, and combination of the bow and feedback within the guitar to sound like a train. It's on the album Live Rails.
Yeah.
So you can hear that on the track Tube Head. Yes, there's something of the violin that I look for in my sound with the guitar. It's like where the guitar and the violin come together. And I often use violins with work when I'm doing stuff, either real violin or sample. Yes. I can't get away from the violin. It's violin and cello, of course, which is. And the viola. They're all wonderful instruments, especially when played together by great players, and with great music, of course, because there's no point having this wonderful sound without the direction that many Eastern European romantic composers have. So I'm probably a romantic, you know. I'm a romantic hooligan with the guitar.